Step away from the hydrant. Put down the tool.
Officers, I am a firefighter. I was fixing.
Put down the tool now.
Okay, I'm putting it down. I'm a firefighter with Station 14. This hydrant was malfunctioning. I repaired it.
You are a firefighter. Where's your uniform, your vehicle?
I'm off duty. I was jogging. I noticed the hydrant was broken. I'm trained in hydrant maintenance.
Turn around. Hands behind your back.
The sun was barely up when Terrell Blake spotted trouble. He was just a few miles into his usual morning run, cutting through Riverside Heights, the kind of neighborhood where every lawn is manicured and homes run from $2 to $5 million. It was quiet, the kind of peace you only get before 7 a.m., and Terrell was in the zone. Just a black guy in running clothes, minding his business, listening to the rhythm of his feet on the pavement. That's when he noticed something that would change everything. The fire hydrant at the corner of Riverside Heights Boulevard and Oakmont looked off. The bonnet on top was wobbling, almost dancing in the breeze, and water was seeping from the base. Terrell didn't just notice it, he understood it. He'd spent a decade with the fire department, worked his way up to Fire Equipment Specialist Level 3, earned every certification you could get in fire science, hydraulics, and municipal water systems. When it came to hydrants, Terrell was the city's guy. He'd inspected thousands, written the inspection protocol the city used, and taught maintenance classes at the fire academy. If there was ever a hydrant niche, Terrell owned it. He paused his run, took out his phone, and snapped photos for documentation. Standard procedure. Then he checked the pressure gauge. Abnormal. That hydrant wasn't just a little loose, it was failing. If firefighters needed it in an emergency, it would have let them down. And in a neighborhood as dense and expensive as Riverside Heights, a failed hydrant could spell disaster. Fires can jump house to house, and without water, entire blocks can go up. Terrell knew there were city utility boxes every few blocks, stocked with repair tools for exactly this sort of emergency. He grabbed the hydrant wrench from the closest box, realigned the valve stem, tightened the bonnet, sealed up the leak, and tested the pressure. 5 minutes, maybe less. He was about to call the fire department dispatch to report the repair, but before he could, a police cruiser pulled up. Lights on. Terrell's heart sank. He'd been here before, not at this exact corner, but in situations where people saw a black man doing something unexpected and assumed the worst. Susan Dalton had been watching from her window. She lived on that corner, retired, self-appointed neighborhood watch. 11 police calls in 2 years, mostly about suspicious people of color. She saw Terrell, didn't see a professional, didn't even think to ask what he was doing. She saw a problem and called 911. Suspicious black male tampering with city infrastructure. Looks like vandalism or terrorism. He's using tools. Hurry. The 911 system took her at her word. Possible vandalism or terrorism. That's how Officer Justin Harper and his partner Amanda Foster heard it when the dispatch came through. They rolled up at 6:22 a.m., saw a black man in athletic gear with a wrench on city property, and immediately went into high alert mode. "Step away from the hydrant! Put down the tool!" they shouted as they got out. Terrell stood, wrench still in hand, momentarily stunned by the volume and urgency. "Officers, I'm a firefighter," he tried to say, keeping his tone calm, measured, how he'd been taught to survive these moments. "Put the tool down, now." He placed the wrench on the ground, hands raised. "I work for Station 14. I'm a fire equipment specialist. That hydrant was broken. I fixed it." Harper didn't buy it. "Where's your uniform? Where's your vehicle?" "I'm off duty. Was out running. I saw the problem and fixed it. Look, here's my ID." Terrell moved slow, deliberate, pulling out his wallet, showing his driver's license and official firefighter ID. Harper examined it skeptically. This could be fake. Anybody can print an ID card. Anger flickered in Terrell's chest, but he kept his composure. Call Station 14. Ask for Captain Chen. Call Fire Department Dispatch. They'll confirm everything. Amanda Foster started writing in her notebook. We got a call that you were tampering, taking photos, using tools. Terrell explained. Photos for documentation. The wrench is city issued. Hydrants are my responsibility. That one was failing. I fixed it. Just then, Susan Dalton appeared on the sidewalk. Bathrobe, coffee mug, satisfaction all over her face. Officers, thank you for coming. This man was tampering with our hydrant. Who knows what damage he's caused? Terrell tried again. Ma'am, I'm a firefighter. I fixed your hydrant. It was broken. Now it works. Susan's suspicion was unwavering. He's been here for 15 minutes. How do we know what he really did? Why would a firefighter work at 6 a.m. off duty in jogging clothes? It doesn't make sense. Officer Harper looked from Susan to Terrell and back. In his mind, Susan's word, a white, long-term resident, carried more weight than any credentials Terrell could produce. Sir, turn around. Hands behind your back. Terrell's mind reeled. What? You're arresting me? For fixing a hydrant? We're detaining you for investigation of vandalism and tampering with municipal infrastructure, Harper replied, already pulling out the cuffs. As the cold metal closed around his wrists, Terrell realized how little his expertise, his training, his 10 years of dedicated service mattered in this moment. Susan nodded. Thank you, officers. We can't be too careful these days. Terrell was led to the police car, placed in the back like a common criminal, for doing his job, for saving lives. At the police station, they processed him. Fingerprints, mugshot, holding cell. His fitness tracker still showed his interrupted run. He requested a phone call, was told to wait. He sat there, thinking about the hydrant he'd fixed, the neighborhood he'd protected, the absurdity of this arrest. Finally, at 7:15 a.m., Detective Brian Marshall called Station 14. Dispatcher Maria Santos, 20 years on the job, picked up. We have a Terrell Blake in custody. Says he's a firefighter. Can you confirm? Maria was instantly alarmed. Terrell? Yes, he's our fire equipment specialist. Why was he arrested? Tampering with a hydrant. Tampering? Terrell literally wrote our hydrant protocols. That hydrant has been flagged for maintenance. He probably fixed it on his run. That's what he does. Detective Marshall got Captain Chen on the line. When Chen heard what happened, he dropped everything and sped to the station. By 7:45, he was in the lobby, fire captain's uniform and all, demanding to see Terrell. You're holding my firefighter for fixing a hydrant? Chen was furious. Detective Marshall tried to calm things, but Chen wasn't having it. You want to verify? Go inspect the hydrant. I'll wait. At 8 a.m., Inspector Tony Vasquez was on site at the hydrant. He called Chen with the verdict. It was malfunctioning, but now it's perfect. Clean repair, professional work. If this hadn't been fixed and there was a fire, it could have been a disaster. Chen put Marshall on speaker so he could hear it word for word. Whoever repaired this hydrant knows what they're doing. With houses this close, this was potentially life-saving work. Terrell Blake prevented a disaster and you arrested him for it, Chen said. Get him out of that cell. At 8:15, Terrell was released. 2 hours in custody for doing his job. Marshall called it an inconvenience. Terrell stared him down. "You arrested me for saving lives. You didn't believe my ID. You didn't believe my explanation. You believed a woman who saw a black man and assumed crime. That's not an inconvenience. That's racial profiling." Chin put a reassuring hand on Terrell's shoulder and led him out. As they left, he told Marshall, "We'll be filing a formal complaint. The city attorney will hear about this." Later, Captain Chen requested Susan Dalton's 911 call history, 11 calls in 2 years, 8 involving people of color, none leading to actual crimes. She had a pattern, and it had just cost the city both a firefighter and nearly their fire protection. Terrell had done everything right, noticed a problem, fixed it, documented it, was prepared to report it. Instead, he got arrested. Not because he did something wrong, but because in this neighborhood, a black man with professional expertise looked suspicious. His firefighter ID was doubted, his technical explanation dismissed, his offers for immediate verification ignored. Susan Dalton's suspicion, however, was acted on instantly. 8 weeks later, the lawsuit was filed. Blake versus City of Riverside. Unlawful arrest, false imprisonment, racial profiling, malicious prosecution, professional defamation. Susan Dalton was named personally for filing a false report motivated by bias. The city had no defense. Body cam footage, the ignored ID, Susan's history, and expert confirmation of Terrell's repair made their position indefensible. 11 months later, the city settled. $4.2 million, $800,000 for Terrell's rights violations, trauma, lost income. $3.4 million in punitive damages. A message to anyone who equates black professionalism with crime. Officer Harper got a 90-day suspension, mandatory bias training, a permanent record, and was required to do community service with the fire department. Officer Foster, 30-day suspension, bias training, formal reprimand. Susan Dalton paid $75,000 from her homeowner's insurance, had to complete racial bias training, and became a local pariah. Detective Marshall received a written reprimand for failing to verify Terrell's credentials immediately. The city instituted new protocols. All firefighters now carry an emergency verification card that dispatch can confirm immediately. Police must now attempt real-time verification of any professional ID before making arrests. The city also tracks repeat 911 callers. 3 calls with no criminal result trigger an investigation. Riverside Heights HOA was forced to run anti-bias education after the city threatened liability. Here's the thing. Neither Harper nor Susan Dalton were cartoon villains. They were ordinary people operating in a system that taught them to suspect black people by default. Susan's fear was given credibility. Terrell's expertise was treated as a lie, and he paid for it. No amount of money can erase the memory of being cuffed on the street or the damage done to his professional reputation. But the reforms mattered. The accountability mattered. Now, when someone tries to stop a professional doing their job, the system has to ask questions, verify, not assume. And if there's a next time, it'll cost even more. Terrell spent 10 years becoming an expert, and for saving a neighborhood, he was treated like a criminal. The settlement was big, but the real change was in the new protocols, the caller accountability, and the training on recognizing professional expertise, no matter what someone's wearing. So here's my question for you. Should Susan Dalton have faced criminal charges for her false report? Should repeat biased 911 callers lose the right to call, except in true emergencies? Should off-duty firefighters be protected by law when they step in to prevent disaster? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This story shows that credentials can mean nothing when bias is in charge, but documentation, verification, and accountability are possible. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.